Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. We are here to talk to you guys for our first video review of one of the films we got a chance to see at this year's Tribeca Film Festival, which we're so lucky to be covering this year. The film we're going to be talking about is called Griffin in Summer. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Liz. I am joined this time by Liz Seiko.
Hello, everybody.
And we're excited to talk about this movie. It is one of the big narrative features that played at Tribeca this year. If you guys didn't already know, we're lucky to be covering this festival this year. It's our first time being able to cover it, and being in our neighbor state of New York, it's really exciting that we get to watch some of these films before some of you guys, give you guys a little bit of an insight on some of these movies that might be in the awards categories later in the year. We're not sure exactly with some of these. I've had a chance to do a few interviews now already. Some are already up on the YouTube channel and on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So be sure to check those out if you guys haven't already. But like I said, we're going to be talking about Griffin in Summer for this review. And we're obviously not going to do a lot of spoilers because this is a film that a lot of you guys haven't had a chance to see necessarily. But I'm just going to read the log line on IMDb, and then we'll dive right into our discussion on the film. Griffin in Summer chronicles a 14-year-old Griffin Naffle's as a playwright, the most ambitious playwright of his generation. But once he meets a handsome 25-year-old handyman named Brad, his life and play will never be the same. This film is written and directed by Colia. It also stars a young boy named Everett Blunck as the lead character Griffin. Melanie Lynskey is in this. Owen Teague, who recently played the lead ape in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, plays a big role in this as well. Ryder Fortson, who was in Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, as well as the Ant-Man franchise. She's in this as well, plus a small role for Kathryn Newton, some other young actors and actresses that are in this film, Alivia Bellamy, Ian Hernandez, Oropeza, a lot of other people. So let's dive right in. There's going to be a short review. Again, we can't spoil a lot of this film. We don't really want to want you guys to go check this out when you guys finally do have access to seeing it. But it's a coming of age film, and it's a lot of this self-discovery for this young boy named Griffin. So I want to start with your overall broad thoughts on the film and what you thought of Everett Blunck's performance.
I thought it was a really cute script, and just a great story for like a director that I think he's only ever done shorts. So like for this to be his first full length narrative, really great job writing wise. I think that the boy that plays Griffin, Everett Blunck, did a really great job. Like honestly, he was like a sweetheart the whole film. And he's kind of, not to like give any spoilers, but his character isn't the nicest to his friend group, and it was just comical and then also very like endearing to see this young actor trying to fully flex and play the lead of a role, which is not, or the lead of a film like this, which is not always easy. But I think especially when you're acting amongst some of these bigger named roles, like I feel like that can be intense, just as a younger actor. But I think he was great. I also really loved the ensemble of friends that were around him. I thought that they were all very funny and real. They didn't feel like young actors that were
trying to play up.
Yes.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think that Everett Blunck's performance is going to be like the breakout of this film, what people are going to look at the most and be like, oh my God, this kid, he embodies the role of Griffin so perfectly. Like you can't explain it any other way. From the opening scene, which is so just mind boggling. He's at his high school talent show. And when you hear him basically just say, I'm going to be performing
an excerpt from my
play that I wrote. And it takes the whole entire high school by surprise.
And the audience. I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to be. So when I read the initial description of the play or of the film, I was like, okay, like the most ambitious playwright of his generation. It's going to be very cute playwright stuff. And he wants to be a playwright. Got it. I did not expect him to actually be like writing dramatic stuff.
Very, very dramatic and adult and mature themed.
Yes, work. I didn't expect them to go that route, but it was very funny.
Yeah, I think the script is very smart. I think it's very witty. It's great to. It's always fun to kind of put kids in these scenarios too. I think like Wes Anderson does a good job of having a vibe like that. And I got Wes Anderson vibes and Woody Allen vibes from this film a
Okay.
bit. Some of the being able for Nicholas Colia, the director, to bring in some like heavy hitters in terms of actors always benefits and elevates sort of the story you're trying to tell, because Colia had done a short film back in 2017 that this feature is inspired by. So it was a 13-minute short. He expanded it into, I believe it's just about 90 minutes, like
It's an hour and a half.
Yeah,
like
hour
solid.
and a half solid. Which the story didn't need to be more than that. It's perfectly encapsulated story within itself. You are the queen of runtime, so I'm sure you loved that.
I loved this runtime. I thought it was beautiful. He wrapped it up perfectly where the audience was getting enough from each character without feeling lost. There was really no moment where I was like, ooh, that felt rushed, or I needed more from a character. I think that he had a really good runtime, and I think story-wise, it was solid for a first-time film.
Yeah, I agree. Owen Teague probably has the second most in terms of like heavy lifting, quote unquote, in terms of this film and the script, playing the handyman Brad that they allude to. It's so interesting because I remember seeing him a few years ago in Bloodline. I was trying to figure out what it was.
Okay.
So he's in Bloodline and he plays the son. I think he's Ben Mendelsohn's son. I haven't watched that show in a while. So Danny, yes. He plays the young version of Ben Mendelsohn's character, and he plays the son of another character. And his face always like stuck out to me. Like he always had a very unique look, and I thought he was a good actor. Now he's starting to be getting these roles, and just in the last year, he was in Eileen. He was in You Hurt My Feelings, an A24 film. He was in Reptile, a Netflix film with Benicio del Toro and Justin Timberlake. And then he was the lead in arguably the biggest movie of the summer so far, in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, obviously playing an ape, not playing himself necessarily, or like a human character. But going from that film to this film and getting to see him have a different dynamic was really great.
Yeah.
His character is really interesting.
I loved his character.
I agree.
The moment, okay, so at first I was like, oh, are they gonna do the cheesy, just like brooding, like backyard handyman who like smokes cigarettes and drinks whiskey? I was like, is this the typical like MO? The moment that they showed that he is, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but the moment that they showed that he is a performance artist, I was like, this is beautiful.
Oh, it's great.
This is so good. And so it's funny. It's it was really great and a smart move to make his character not seem one-dimensional, to add that element in.
I 100% agree, because it adds that other layer of relatability with Griffin too.
Yep.
Which just enhances Griffin's like attraction for Brad.
And I think it was also like everybody that has ever, if you have ever been a part of the theater world or the art world, you know somebody like Brad.
This dude, I thought
you know somebody
thing.
like him.
I thought the same thing. Yeah, he's an experimental artist.
Throwing stuff against the wall. That's what
it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
He also gives me, though, as his just face, he looks like Austin Butler a little bit.
Dude, I was thinking the same
Were
thing.
you?
Well, I was getting Austin Butler vibes from this movie too.
Okay.
Like I could have foreseen if they flipped them in this movie, like I could see Butler playing this role.
Like not their first pick, but maybe they were like, we want an Austin Butler type.
100%. But I thought Teague does a really great job. Those are my two standouts. Again, having Lynskey in this is big in terms of star power. She's been one of the leads on Yellow Jackets, obviously had a role in The Last of Us. She's been everywhere. I do wish we saw a little bit more with her character. I think there were moments in which, but she was kind of just there to facilitate the story, and I like how she didn't sort of take away from the young performers like you brought up. I thought a lot of the young actors were really great in it. Abby Ryder Fortson, like I brought up in the beginning, she's kind of an up and coming, like waiting to break out star. Like she's a child actor that's been already in so many things that people are aware of.
She was one of my favorites actually in this film, because I felt like she felt very grounded, and not trying to seem like, oh, I'm acting like I'm acting really hard. In her scene, she just really felt like I'm talking to one of my friends, and this is what we're doing today.
Well, part of me thinks that too, also because she's probably the most seasoned.
I think so
out of all of them. I mean, she's got 20 IMDb credits. Like that's already kind of a big deal at this point. I don't know. Let's see how old she is. it doesn't even tell you. It just says the date that she was born. It doesn't tell you the year.
Really?
So yeah, on IMDb it doesn't have it.
Oh,
So
weird.
but still, yeah, let's talk about.
She's 16.
She's 16. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about one thing you had brought up off screen. Was in terms of like the way that the atmosphere sort of felt, and it was a good point that I hadn't thought of until you brought it up to me, but I agree with you.
So I think one of the things about, I'm kind of jumping now into the production side of films, is sound for me should be something that is not noticed. And that's both in, if you're using a lot of sound, it shouldn't overwhelm the piece. And if you're using minimum sound, it shouldn't be obvious that there's a lack of sound going on. And for me, there was a lack of sound in this film. There was a lot of room tone, especially in the two scenes where people are talking with each other. And I just kept thinking, like, I don't know how I should be feeling necessarily in this film right now, or in this scene right now. And the number one thing that helps an audience member understand which direction they should be feeling is through the music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it making me feel comfortable? Is it making me feel nervous? Is it making anticipation build? And I think if they had just gotten a little bit more of a soundtrack going on, or a score, just something to add element to the film, I think that would have just elevated it to a whole nother level.
I agree. And I think that stood out to me even more so too. And this isn't necessarily a gripe, but because the cinematography was so simple, it made it stand out that it was so simple.
Yeah.
Like, I kept noticing, like, and I'm not accusing the filmmaker of doing this, but there's just a lot of scenes between two people in which it feels like they're not in the room with each other. And that is nerve-wracking. I mean, again, we know the ins and outs of it, but so much of it is like one shot, one shot. There's not a lot of group shots. There's not a lot of moments. Like, my favorite scene in the film, this doesn't give a lot away, is when Griffin shows Brad the script for the first time. And I think that added an extra layer for me because it was more intimate.
Yeah.
Because it was very obvious that they were close to one another and Griffin was anticipating his reaction to it. And they played off of each other even better in that scene. So I thought, and even the scene, like the scene that I had texted you about, where he finally gets him on board to be a part of what he's trying to do, and Owen Teague has this great scene. It's probably my favorite scene in the entire movie, and it made me like gutturally like belly laugh out loud, and I'm like, so unexpected, but it just elevates those scenes like you were talking about. It makes it feel a lot more polished than somebody that is a first-time filmmaker. But again, as a first-time filmmaker, it's still a really great first and simple first story to kind of take it with, which I can appreciate, because sometimes they just thrust filmmakers into like these crazy, like you go from like a low, either like a $1 million budget to like $100 million budget. And it's like, he's able to do some good character work here and work with kids, which is complicated. It's very complicated. So yeah.
Well, because I think sometimes with early directors, they want to flex all of their filmmaking muscles and be like, I'm an incredible DP, I'm an incredible sound mixer, I'm an incredible light set lighter. But then they lose the story. And for me, I think he was like, nope, I love my story. I want to tell this story. Let's focus on the script and let the acting shine, and then let the other pieces be there just to be able to support the story, which I totally appreciate.
Yeah, I agree.
I just wish there was a little bit more of a soundtrack or score going on. One other thing, I love Kathryn Newton pretty much in anything that she does. I think she's really funny. I think she's super quirky on screen. She loves to play different characters. She's not really using the same archetype for all of her roles. I just really was not loving the accent.
Yeah, it was a choice.
It was a choice that I think could have used another month of honing that in.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, because when she first came on screen, I was like, is that an accent that we're hearing? Like, I didn't know it right away.
I didn't either.
And then when she started really talking, I was like, well, what accent is this? Like, what are we doing?
Boston or New York.
No, I couldn't tell.
I was very confused.
And that, yeah, for me, it just kind of took me out of it, where I think she really didn't need that accent at all. I think she would have been able to flex in that character and really brought she was entertaining in it, but I think if the accent had just not been on the plate, she would have eaten the role up.
Yeah. I think, yeah, because they were like, I even like the conversation scene between her and Griffin in the backyard.
Yeah, I love that scene.
When she's talking about
Mhm.
what did she say? She goes, the script is so funny. I forget exactly what she calls it, but she's like, these slutty tweens. Like, I don't need these slutty tweens all over
Do
my
I need
man.
to be worried about any slutty tweens?
I will say, in terms of like a movie of this scale, I think it's one of the funnier movies I've seen in recent years. Like, I think that the movie has a lot of moments that actually, like, it's not one of those moments where you're sitting there and you're like, oh, this is funny. You're like actually laughing out loud at some of the scenes. So again, I think the writing is really well done. I think the performances, especially Blunck, is a standout. Like, I really would love to see this kid do a lot more work. Like, I hope it doesn't become that sort of thing like the kid from Moonrise, who like was so great and then like kind of disappeared. But again, everyone has their choices. But it's like, he's a kid, so we'll see what happens. But he repped this character so well, of this like theater loving, like
kind of awkward but confident kid.
Yes. Confident in his abilities to do what he feels is his calling to do.
Yes.
And yet feeling so, and he plays this really well too, yet still having those moments of like having a realization that like there's nobody that is like me around me. Like, none of these kids understand who I am. And he plays that really well, even on his face. Like, it's not even fully like in his face acting. I felt like he did a really great job there too.
No, I really enjoyed his performance. I'm interested to see kind of what he does next. Because this, like, I'm curious to know if he is very much like Griffin, of very confident kind of type A that wants control over everything. I'm now interested to see if he can play a little bit more of like, I don't know, like a douchebag kid.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Like, I don't know. I want to see this kid hanging out with some of the like bad kids in school.
Yeah, that'd be funny. I would love to just see like, and I know this isn't gonna happen, but like the character is so, like, I love the character so much. I would love to see like how the rest of his high school journey goes. Like, what is this kid gonna do?
Where is he gonna go?
Is he gonna keep doing plays? We had regrets in autumn. Is it gonna be regrets in the winter? Like, just like, I mean, there's so much there with that character. And oh my God, the Glenn Benning too is like something that like,
oh, hysterical. Like, great writing.
So funny. And such a great aside, just being able to show that on camera. Like, that was one of my favorite pieces of it.
He gave me, I don't know if it's this character or the actor, but it gave me like young Sheldon.
That's what I was thinking too. It definitely gives off young Sheldon vibes. It definitely gives off young Sheldon.
It's gotta be, I think it's the button ups fully buttoned to the collar.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it's giving.
It's such a look. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this film a lot. I'm excited to see. I'm a big fan of most coming of age films. I just kind of really enjoy the genre. And I think there's a lot of room to play within that, because it's a weird genre, because you have to stick within the tropes that come with coming of age, but you're able to craft a story within that, like, in so many different ways. Like, you have all different kinds of kids that act all different. And we know, as when we were young people, like, we're still young people, but when we were children, we do and say things that we look at now and we're like, I can't believe I acted that way.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. Like, and it's funny, like, you have it even in certain lines of dialogue when Ryder Fortson, she's like, yeah, but that was when we were 12. And it's like, well, you're 14 in
2 years ago.
But that's how they think, and that's how people think.
Well, it's funny because I resonated with this film. Like, when these 14-year-olds are putting on this very emotionally intense play about like very adult matters, and I'm just cracking up because I was like, this was me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because you come
as
from
like
that
a theater kid, being in like 9th grade, 13 years old, and like crying about like, my husband's leaving me for another woman. And like, your mom's just sitting in the audience being like, absolutely.
It's so crazy.
It's so funny.
It's so unbelievable.
I saw, though, I think it was one of the taglines maybe, or maybe this was, I don't remember where I saw this. It could have been on Letterboxd, that somebody said Griffin in Summer is as if it's a combination of Call Me By Your Name and theater camp.
Okay.
which I totally agree
Yeah,
with.
100%.
Yeah,
No,
it's like if they morph together.
I haven't seen Theater Camp, but I've seen the trailer.
Mhm.
I still want to see Theater Camp. I've heard it's great.
If you enjoyed the theater-ness of this
Then I'll
film,
probably love that movie.
you need to go watch
I know.
Theater Camp.
I do want to
because
watch it.
Theater Camp is like this on steroids.
Yeah, 100%. And you get that vibe from the trailer. But I was getting that vibe, like, even though I've seen the trailer of Theater Camp, like,
Mhm.
as I was watching this, I was getting Theater Camp
Yeah,
vibes,
yeah.
so I know it's from the same cloth. But yeah, it's a really good story too of like someone finding their first love, and it does it in a way where it's not beating you over the head with it.
Mhm.
It's done in a really thoughtful way, and it's done in a way in which this kid is finding out what sexuality is for the first time.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. But I don't know, is there anything else?
No, I had a really great time watching it. I think that I hope that it gets picked up somewhere so that more people can see this. I think it's one of the good films coming on out to the world.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really cute indie. It's a really funny indie. I think if you're just a fan, like I said, of the coming of age genre, you're gonna have a lot of fun if you guys get to check out Griffin in summer. And I agree. Hopefully, this gets picked up for distribution and it goes to theaters, and a lot of people can go and see it. So that's pretty much it.
That's it.
That is
That's
Griffin
all we
in
got.
summer, ladies and gentlemen. So please. Let us know in the comments. I know you guys probably haven't seen this film yet, but is it something that you guys sound interested in? Be sure to go on IMDb. You can check out sort of who's in the film as well as the synopsis. Hopefully it gets picked up and you guys can have a chance to see this as well. Please be sure to give this video a like if you guys can. And we have tons, like I said, tons of content incoming for you guys, not only throughout the month of June, but pretty much the whole summer because it's jam-packed with stuff. Tons of shows coming out. We're already covering The Acolyte. We're going to start covering The Boys this week, as well as House of the Dragon next week. And then we're doing a bunch of stuff for Tribeca. So I'm doing more reviews. I'm doing interviews. Liz, I think, is going to do some more reviews. We have some more stuff coming from Zach and Vinny. So guys, really appreciate if you guys, like I said, can like this video. If you can, please hit subscribe down below. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. So help us get there, because if you guys help us get there, then we have even more means to do even more content for you guys if you like what we've been doing. If you guys could also follow us on social media, we're at Cinema Wave Media and at _Culture Wave Media on Instagram, as well as at Cinema Wave Media on TikTok and Threads, and Culture Wave on Facebook. Just signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
I am Liz Seiko.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.